Up next, we have another panel discussion on delivering realistic psychological and physical experiences through immersive real-life simulations in a safe environment. And it's an honor for me to welcome on stage our eminent panel members. First up, we have Mr. Mohamed Al-Hammami. He is an AI program manager, certified lean startup coach, and also an ex-head of VR section at Qatar University. Second, we have Mr. Rashed Gharaibeh. He is new technologies project manager at Grupo Mediapro. Our third eminent panelist is Miss Mariam Rafehi. She is a teaching faculty at Northwestern University and Virginia Commonwealth University in Qatar. Our fourth eminent panelist is Mr. Brian Parzer. He is a training product manager, warehouse and operations at Lufthansa Cargo. Last but not the least, we have our very respectable panel moderator, Mr. Mark Sage. He is the executive director at AR Enterprise Alliance. All the best to the panelists, and over to you, Mark.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. I am super excited and honored to be here with so many experts and listening to the great events that we've been listening to all day today. Just real quick about me, because I want to get onto the experts and ask them some questions. But the AR for Enterprise Alliance is a global membership-funded, not-for-profit alliance helping to accelerate the adoption of enterprise AR. I know today we're going to be covering both AR and VR, but so I'll come back to a little bit of the work in the area in a second. But I really want to kind of introduce the panelists and ask them a little bit more about their role and their experience of AR, and then one key question to start with: what business problems can be solved using immersive technology? Now, Brian, I'd like to come to you first. I know you're kind of helping us out with, you've got some super urgent work, so if you'd like to introduce yourself a little bit more and talk a little bit about your experience. But that question, what business problems can be solved using immersive technology?
Hi, Mark. Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Brian Parzer. I am a training manager at the Lufthansa Cargo Training Academy based in the area of Frankfurt, Germany. I am also a two-time e-learning award winner for my work in augmented reality. I've also have some work in virtual, but my major success has been in augmented reality. So to answer your question, Mark, what type of business problems can be solved using immersive technology? Two things that definitely have an impact is the amount of training time and the amount of retention using this type of training. I can give you an example with one of my major products, or what problem we had. In the cargo industry, obviously, it has to deal with the transport of cargo from point A to point B. And when we have to teach the customers or our participants what to do, how to do it, we cannot get all types of the cargo into a normal training setting. Yeah, we can't get cars, engines, horses, and you name it through the doors and say, hey, let's start learning how to load and what rules and regulations we have to follow. So I have a physical issue getting the cargo to the facility. The type of participants that we have that handle the cargo usually like to learn by doing. They're not the ones that usually want to sit and learn the theory and then figure it out later. They want to do it. So I had a combination of, I need to get the cargo into the room and I need to get the participants active. So for me, it was a natural thing. I go into augmented reality. I take a 3D object or 3D objects, bring it into the room. We all see it. We all can work with it. We can work in teams. We can work as individuals. I can coach them through the whole process. And they learn more or less hands-on. Maybe they're not able to physically hold and feel what they're doing, but the motions are there. The thought process is there. And in that sense, I'm connecting theoretical with practical using augmented reality. And that is the reason why I decided to go into it. Obviously, also in a classroom setting, if I have to load a car, maybe the classroom is not big enough to load the car. I can scale it. I can do a 50% model. So I can also work with the sizes of the model to fit the classroom I'm in at this time. For this project, this augmented reality project, I have chosen the Microsoft HoloLens 2 to use this project. That is where we do our augmented reality. Obviously, for virtual reality on different projects, I've used the Oculus Quest 2, I've used the Pico 3. So I do have different tools there. But by using this project of getting the cargo into the room, using augmented reality and getting the people hands-on, it solved a major problem. One, I got the cargo into the room, and I was able to reduce the failure rate. In a normal theoretical classroom setting, I had a failure rate worldwide of about 36%. Getting them now hands-on using augmented reality, it dropped to 7% failure rate. It's an insane number. I've never thought that it would get that low, but just getting the cargo there and getting them hands-on, they learned, and that's why I said one of the factors is the retention process. They didn't have to read it black and white in the book and try to remember it. They did it, and they knew what to do.
Fantastic, Brian. That's absolutely awesome. I don't know if are you able to stay with us for a little bit longer, because I'd love to come and talk a bit more about it.
I got a half hour to go. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'd love to come back about the benefits and dive into that a little bit deeper as well.
Okay.
But let's move on to the rest of the panelists. We can go over to Mohamed as well. So welcome. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
Same sort of thing. You know, tell us a little bit about your role, your experience in XR, and what business problems you've been working on that has been solved by using immersive technology.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me, and good afternoon, everyone. So I'm currently a program manager in XR in AGI at a company called PNY Technologies. So basically, we are working on NVIDIA technology, like the GPU, part important in any kind of immersive system, from the HMDs to cave system and to XR studios. Previously, I was heading the virtual reality section in Qatar University, so a lot of research, a lot of education. We try to bridge with the businesses as well with the joint projects. So my main expertise or my main experience is in the field of VR, XR, non-gaming. So basically, we try to enhance the knowledge, the research by using immersiveness. It can go from a very low level of definition of details in 3D, but with the right processes, to high-end definition, like working in an immersive content for BIM or for architecture or for oil and gas. So basically, the team that I manage in Qatar University was basically working on Unity 3D. So the main value on this is that the content is quite present out there. A lot of things are already ready to go to. You can build something with the model, with avatar already designed by other university or other individuals. So my idea of XR or of VR is really to help bridge business with users. It can be researcher to students. It can be consumers to retail shop, and so on and so forth. So this is the beauty of VR. Actually, is that the sky is the limit. We can check the technology and see what can be done right now, with the horizon that things can be getting better in interaction, in immersiveness, in details, and in definition, if you are using projector, or if you are using the HMZs out there right now that are getting very, very good.
That's fantastic. Yes, thank you for those insights. And you're absolutely right. In my experience, we're just scratching the surface at the moment. There's so much more we can do. And that's why it's a little bit of a leading question. It's about problems being solved now, but the problems we can solve in the future are kind of almost undefinable. So we're looking forward to growing together to be able to do that. Let me come over to Mariam now. Good afternoon to you. And same question, please. A little bit about your role, your experience in XR, and what business problems are you solving?
Hi, so Mariam, just an apology. I might have some construction going on in the background. So I joined a research project in immersion media in education in Berlin recently, but yes, I was working, or I am a practice-based researcher in interdisciplinary design, and my research explored VR design strategies to influence student resilience, creativity, and engagement. And that's also through inducing physiological experiences in VR. So I'm mostly interested in VR, but I've started working with AR as well, or I've mostly taught, actually, because when you develop for or design for VR, a lot of can be translated into AR as well. So I've worked as a lecturer in the university, Virginia Commonwealth University and Northwestern University in Qatar. And one of the courses, for example, that I taught was prototyping in VR. And the problem I was trying to solve there is that a design process usually requires a lot of iterations. And especially at a design school, for example, we sometimes then tend to use a 3D printer to develop a sort of prototype that we can test and play around with. And there's a lot of changes that still happens after that initial prototype. And that process can create a lot of waste. And there are companies like Ford, for example, that are already using VR to prototype. So preparing students for that kind of future industry was very important. And at the same time, really solving that issue of waste at this moment. I was also very lucky because I'm one of the few ones who was lucky that the pandemic hit. That's awful to say. I'm so sorry. But it pushed us into a remote working environment and in a remote education environment. So then 2 colleagues and I actually received funding from the HBKU Innovation Center to test VR as a tool for engagement and collaboration in a remote learning environment. And that was really interesting. And I'm happy to talk about that more in terms of benefits, but also challenges, of course.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's really great. And you know, having been in the industry for a while, I still think we have a lot to learn in terms of designing interfaces for kind of a 3D or kind of a virtual environment. You know, we're still,
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. So again, we talk about some of that as well, but that's some fantastic insights. Thank you, Mariam. Rashed, great to see you again and welcome. Be great to hear your story and your work in XR.
Sure. Hello to everyone. I'm Rashed, Gharaibeh, Head of New Technology Department at Mediapro Middle East, looking after the innovation and technology and the way that we can implement this technology to our core business. For the answer for your question is as easy as that. The message that can be delivered using the XR technology, it's easy to reach to everyone, and there is no need for any physical environment and any physical present to learn more about it. Plus, we can bring the future to us. Came in mind one of with the solution that we've been working for. It's an exhibition called Zone of Hope, and it's talking about the climate change. And as we know, it's already known since 19th century. A lot of discussion going on, but since we don't have experience with it that much, majority are not bothering even themselves about it. So the natural idea came to put the human in this uncomfortable position and let them know how it will feel if things will change around them. So with multi-scenario experience where visual, sound, texture, and feels come together, and the visitor can experience cold, heat, wind, humidity as a part of the message. The experience was grounded in the idea that there is one way to heal the climate change, and it's by experience. This as well, there is another recent examples that we working on it, and effectively an aid for humanity to move forward, involving and all of that come to comfort from the safety environment that we have it now and what we will be facing for the future.
Thank you, Rashed, and that's great. And I think we've got a really wide range of different people, which is fantastic. I really think, in my eyes, and again, I'm a little bit AR biased, so I made that apology, but VR is a fantastic tool for putting people in those environments that you don't really want to be in. I think, Rashed, you've shown a really good example. My favorite one is about the nuclear power station about to explode, and you have to kind of control it and stuff like that. No one in the world wants that to happen, but VR is a great example of, you know, being able to educate people in that. So yeah, I think in summary of all of that, we have a wide range of different technologies, wide range of different kind of use cases and problems being solved and how the technology is being deployed. I think there are definite benefits of VR and AR in particular use cases, and there are some use cases where they could be clearly shared. Just a little bit more about the area. You know, I talked about trying to help accelerate the adoption. So we have members who are deploying the technology, like Ford and Boeing and utilities, medical kind of examples. We have a bigger group of providers, included, Brian mentioned Microsoft and HoloLens, Magic Leap, Vuzix, RealWare. There's a whole bunch of different hardware providers and software providers out there as well, ranging from PTC right the way down to startups. And then we also work with non-commercial organizations like government agencies, research institutes, universities, and standards organizations. And it's about developing that thought leadership, the kind of information that people need to make decisions. It's about bringing the ecosystem together to learn from each other. We're going to go on to some of the benefits and challenges you've experienced, but it's great to be able to share that so people don't make the same mistakes, or at least forewarned before they go into these kind of projects. We also looking at the educate side, making sure we have a steady set of skilled workers coming into the industry. So working with universities to help them define courses and guest lecturing. And finally, overcoming some barriers to adoption, which we're going to mention in a minute, and I'll leave any kind of insights or questions for you when we get to that part as well. So fantastic. So let's go on to the next question. And I always call this, show me the money. You may have seen there's a famous film that goes, show me the money. People are only going to invest, and Brian kind of started to mention this, they're going to invest in this technology when they understand the return on investment. How much is it going to cost? But more importantly, how much am I going to make or save by using the technology? So that's why the question for you guys now is about the benefits. And I've mentioned both tangible and intangible bits. What I mean by intangible benefits, sometimes you didn't even know it was going to be a benefit before you started the project, or it's something you've kind of realized as you've gone through the experience that there are more benefits than you kind of first thought of, or even measured, or even anticipated. And I've got a few examples if we, but if we focus on the kind of tangible ones, listen, I'm not after kind of dollars or kind of money bits. It can be about percentages. It can be about, Brian's already mentioned some of those things. So anyway, enough of me talking. Let's get back to the experts. If we can, I'm going to start with Mohamed and come back all the way around. So Mohamed, if you'd like to give your insights.
Yes, absolutely. So just to try to answer your questions. So my main idea about VR, or the benefit of VR, is to change our mind, or to make us feel something that we in normal circumstances we are not able to. I can give you an example. For example, for the 5 years of working at Qatar University for the VR section, we had one of the main topics that we used to work on is autism. So how to raise the visibility of the autistic kids or the autistic person in society. So the first study that we managed to have is to make feel people not confronted with autistic kid the reality of an autistic person. So we tend to take a quite easy example. So we build up an environment. It can be the coffee shop, it can be a classroom, and we took the information from researcher how the autistic person apprehend the world. So some of them are annoyed or aggressed by color, by lights, by sound. So try to mix up everything in the content in the model. And we gave this content with a headset to two pool of persons. So the first person is teachers in schools, and the second pool of person were the parents. So the idea is for the professor, the teacher, to understand why this kid is behaving in that manner, why he is aggressive, or why he's not focused, or things like that. So when you put the headset, you will experience a regular experience. Then we have just to push a button and to completely change your environment. So you will see aggression from light, from sound, a very annoying, a very short but annoying experience. So the idea is to understand the environment of an autistic person in order for you to understand, to see, okay, he's behaving because the environment is not in his side. He's pushed in the boundary of his comfort, of his personality or psychology. So this allowed a lot of processes to tell us, okay, I understand the behavior of this person, and I will change my answer to this behavior. For the second pool of person, it was the parents. So this is very important for them to finally understand what kind of context or what kind of life can have an autistic kid, their autistic kid, basically. So it was very interesting and very sensitive sometimes. So for me, this kind of example, it's the must of what can VR bring us, make us understand something that in our life, in our context, we are not. We won't cross this situation or this. And this can be, of course, translated to environment impact, pollution, traffic management, a lot of things. So this, for me, is part of the magic of VR. So be in the medium to reach an information or situation that usually we are not confronted to.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think that clearly comes with my kind of view of VR, being able to experience the things that we don't want to experience or we haven't been able to experience well. And I think that's on a positive and negative part. We mentioned I mentioned the nuclear power station, but, you know, being able to understand, you know, in autism and different things, I think that's very powerful. So thank you. Mariam, let's jump over to your good self. I'd love to hear about some of your experiences or some of the benefits you've been able to get from your work.
Okay. So when we were using VR for collaboration in the classroom, we received a lot of qualitative and positive feedback from the students. So they obviously really enjoyed the experience of being in VR, and they were a little bit disinhibited. So they were actually less shy, which sometimes as an educator isn't necessarily a great thing, but that was one thing we observed. So in a nutshell, they were more engaged, but also that translated then to being more active, which is both good and bad. What needs to be said in terms of the psychological experience is that VR actually currently, in my opinion, already affords a realistic response in users. So even though we don't necessarily believe that what we see is reality, we know this is virtual reality, we know it is fake, we still respond realistically, right? And that's where the empathy comes from that Mohamed spoke of. And it can really solicitate those strong emotional reactions and responses. I've also used that, like invoking these strong emotional reactions. I've also used this in another course that I've taught where the students actually had to, so it was called Immersive Storytelling, and they actually had to create through world building. They had to analyze trends, current trends. So in this case, it was the COVID pandemic, and translate those into a potential future world that you were then able to visit. And obviously, when you have these strong emotional experiences, it's like almost like time travel, right? And you can then choose, is this a future that you want to work towards or not? And yeah, so I can definitely see the benefits in it becoming a tool for persuasion, but also for just these incredible experiences that Mohamed described.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I think the ability to visualize and do visualization, but it's also, I guess, taking kind of data. We often see data in a flat 2D kind of bit, being able to bring that. I know I've worked with some companies and members of the area that when you're looking around that kind of content in a virtual or a 3D environment, it kind of brings it to life. It allows you to see things and trends and stuff that you'd never see before. So I think it's really important to kind of expanding our mind the whole time. That's amazing. Let me, have we still got Rashed? Is he still there? Okay, can't quite see him at the moment. So Brian, let's come to yourself, and we'll catch up with Rashed in a moment. Yeah, again, you know, AR is my world. I loved your talk about reducing to a 7% part. Can you add a little bit more detail? Maybe one of the things I'd like to kind of explain is how you actually went around measuring that. I think it's really important, you know, not only to understand the benefits, but how you get to that position. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. For me, it was quite simple. It has to do with passing or failing. When it comes to the airline industry, the people need a license to do their job, whatever it may be, and they need to pass trainings in order to achieve the license. So it was cut and dry. What it was like prior to using augmented reality, what was the rate on a pencil and paper test, yeah, when they did in written form, And then what was it like when they did it in a virtual form, or in the form of augmented reality? So for me, it was clear in the standard, here's the paper of the test, here's your pen, now fill out the questions, answer them. And we had a 36% failure rate. Take the same topic, take it from a black and white, here's it in writing, do it now in AR, show me how you do it. The failure rate went down by 29%, down to 7. So for me, if you look at the benefit, the people who are making decisions to invest or not to invest, a lot of them don't understand the benefits. I could talk here for the next hour of different benefits I could think of, but those are on a level making financial decisions are going to look at the black and white. What's my return on investment? And if I use this one example, I had previously 36% staff failing, and I got it down to 7% using this technology. That either means the person who has failed is coming back again, or is going to get replaced by somebody else who's going to try for the first time, which means their duty travel costs. They have to get into an airplane, more likely travel to Germany, spend some time at the facility, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just by getting it from 36 to 7% would save the company yearly approximately €500,000 in training fees. And then someone's going to start to listen. Because to get it up and running with augmented reality, whether you outsource some of the work and you buy the softwares and the technologies and you're running it on a platform, you will not spend €500,000 in a year. And obviously you're not going to use it for 1 year, you can use it for many years. So if you can say theoretically black and white, you're saving €500,000 a year over 10 years, then you can just mathematically easily say, this is what you're saving, please invest.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. To be honest, I could probably spend an hour listening to you talking about the benefits as well, because it's something that's clear and dear to my heart. And to that point, we've actually created an ROI calculator within the area to help companies. You know, so they absolutely agree with that. I think also those kind of intangible benefits is now they're a bit used to AR and they've used it in one training environment. They can start to use it for other use cases, kind of step-by-step guides, remote assistance, the other things that we see that's really growing within the AR space. So not only have you started a huge bottom line saving for your organization, you've started hopefully a revolution to use it in all sorts of different places, which again will bring lots and lots of ROI as well. So, you know, thank you for driving the kind of ecosystem. I must go on to Rashed. Good to see you back with us. I don't know if you dropped off a second there, sir. No problems at all. So we're talking about benefits. I just wonder if you could fill us in with some of the benefits you've been realizing.
Yeah, so thanks a lot. As we saw that there is a lot of benefits that cannot be even count using this technology, but there is one main thing that we can have the huge benefits of using the digital solution and digital technologies, that the data that can be collected out of this experience, how the user can be act and react, where we can change people behavior in some area, that's I'm sure that will be worth a lot, and for the organization to see how the employees where they are struggling to learn something. So once you bring it in VR, it will be easier to teach, easier. No need to, again, we don't want to talk about the cost, but that's one of the main things in VR. Once you bring the environment to you, everything will be cost effective to you. So again, I will be insisting the data that can be collected. It's really helpful to understand what's the human react in the situation. And that's it for me.
Fantastic, thank you. Brian, I know you've got to run real quick. We're going to come on to our third question, and I hope you don't mind the rest of the panelists, but I'll ask Brian first, just in case he does need to drop. So we've done Show Me the Money, but we all know, and we've lived a bit of this, that there are challenges that need to be overcome when we're deploying this technology. Can you perhaps just mention one or two that you've realized and been able to overcome, and how you've done that, please?
Sure. Obviously, when you're going into this type of training, one thing we like to look at is safety. It has nothing to do exactly with the safety of our airplane and those flying it. Obviously, we want our airplanes to stay in the air, so what we are teaching is safety relevant. I'm talking about the participant here. They're learning in a safe atmosphere. They're learning at their pace, even though the pace is faster than the standard. Here's the trainer's explaining something, showing some videos. Here's the book on it, go read it. The hands-on learning in a safe environment, I can't speak more about it. It is the right way to go today and in the future. But what I would really like to focus on is general acceptance. Obviously, this is something still fairly new out there. People have heard about it, maybe know something about it, maybe tried it out, but don't have a complete overview, nor do they have the open mind to understand where we can go with this. And we need people to be open to change. Yes, the way we learn 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, because we're talking many, many generations here in the workforce, everyone has learned differently, but we need acceptance out there from the stakeholders all the way to the person learning him or herself that it is different. Be open, give it a shot. Obviously, depending on the age group, I do see it also in the generations that those that maybe grew up with smartphones and tablets and stuff like that might be more open to now talking of learning in AR, VR. And then if you have an older generation that clearly maybe learned with a blackboard and chalk and a trainer in the front, is maybe more hesitant because that's really far away from the way they learned. There are mixed reviews out there. I personally have never forced anyone to learn in an augmented or virtual reality setting. I try to get them involved in more of a game way. I have them maybe make toast using augmented reality or virtual reality, have them do something silly maybe. This is how you use the tool. Yeah, they have to understand what is expected of me and how do I use it. And if they understand that it's actually fairly simple, then maybe when we get to the part where they really have to learn, they're already a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more open. Okay, let's try it. It's definitely not 100%. I do have people that say, Brian, it's all great, it's fantastic, I just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But the acceptance has to be out there. And you said it earlier, Mark, we're still at the beginning, scratching the surface. All of us here at the summit today, stay on top of it. This is the future. Do not give in. Keep at it. Keep trying.
Fantastic. Yep. Thank you. And I can only echo those words. And just a couple of other things. Safety, we have a number of committees that are focusing on, this is again within the area, and safety being an important one. We've done quite a bit of work on kind of infographics and information of safety playbook, which again, I'm happy to share with the attendees here. And just going back to, and you mentioned it a little bit, and it's one of the kind of intangible benefits I didn't mention before, but companies looking to bring the next set of workers into their organization, if it's kind of heavy industry, manufacturing, or aerospace, it's kind of difficult. Let's be honest, the kids may not be so excited by those industries, but if they can actually use this technology, that really does excite them. So I think there's some intangible benefits of bringing the next set of skilled workers. Anyway, Rashed, over to you, sir, about talking about some of the challenges that you've seen implementing VR.
So one of the challenges that we faced again is one of the most important challenges that before we develop, people are really hesitant to change and explore new tech. And before, as a solution for that, before we developing an XR solution or a change of management program need to be launched, and an awareness program need to be created before we launch this tech, and the tech will need to be introduced. So an example of the safety-oriented project, we did a project for Mexican police. We offer an immersive technology solution for social innovation project. And I'm sure you probably remember the social commercial through radio or TV about fasten your seatbelt, think about your loved one before you speed, all these ads that we were hearing. But with virtual reality in this project, it's play the same rules, but in deeper meaning and more convenience manner. Which made the user to be possible to experience what it feels to be in the shoes of a drunk driver and the shoes of the victim that lost some of his ability. In this particular case, the accident was taken from real example, and the viewers knew in advance what's the real outcome of the accident, and that itself made the message behind the project have stronger impression and hopefully change someone's future life. And as the end of the campaign, what we heard from the Mexican police that there was a reduction of the traffic accident due to the drunk driver issue by 20% after they launched this social innovation project, as they call it. So as you can see here, the possibility that what happened and how the impact will be in this car accident can be simulated with using VR. But again, you need to to raise awareness campaign about the XR technology and how we can use it, so people will accept to at least try it, to be and to understand more about it.
I agree, and I think whilst we talked a little bit, talked a bit about COVID, you know, the flip side of that is that people are now a little bit more apprehensive to put these head-mounted displays on their head. You know, we've done quite a bit of work again in the area about cleaning devices, and it's something, there are some great solutions out there. I think there's some best practice, but it is, I understand exactly what you're saying from a kind of a social perspective, but there are other impacts as well. Mohamed, let me come over to yourself and some of the challenges you've seen and been able to overcome.
So in an operational way, the biggest challenge that I faced during those years are more in the content side. So the hardware, to make it clear, the hardware for me is important, but it's not the most important thing. Hardware will change with what we call the metaverse. It will be embedded quite everything around us. So it will follow its development path. But for me, in the point of view of a company or studio or VR section or whatever, we have to focus on the content. And when we talk about developing content, it's 30% development and 70% testing. So whatever I work with startups that I coach, whatever, I will tell them, okay, take a time frame for development. You develop your content, the sound, the interaction, and so on and so forth. Take 1 month, and take after that 3-month testing. You have to test, and retest. This is very important because we are addressing several variety of people that experience differently a lot of things. Some of us are more sensitive to sound. Some of us are refracting on 3D. They don't like it so much, so we have to find a way to put them in the immersive content and the experience right away. A lot of us, basically, we are not used to it, so we have to make the experience and the integration, the immersive world quite easy without too much asking people to learn something new. It has to be intuitive, very natural. So, and this is a result of testing. When you test and retest all the time, you will scan a lot of profile of user at the end. So this is very important because the value of a packaged solution is not the hardware, it's not too much how you sell it, it's how the person will be in the world, in the VR world, the couple of first minute or maybe a couple of first second. If you break this experience at the beginning, it's always a little bit harder to get the person back to the immersive experience. So my advice for startups or for entrepreneur or whatever person interested in it, so make your development. A lot of things are ready to go. You can mix things quite easy, but make the testing. The value and the success of your product will be on the acceptance of a majority, because there is always a minority that won't be in the thing. But make testing to maximize your chance to have this successful experience for the majority of person out there.
That's an amazing insight, and thank you for sharing that. I think the phrase is often used as content is king. And I absolutely believe, like your good self, that in any immersive experience.
And I can complement something that maybe a lot of people don't like it, but content is king and hardware is dead. It means that hardware is the technology. A lot of people say it like that because basically it changed a lot. If you buy something very fancy right now, in 6 or 8 months, it will be up to date. Out of date. So really, content and the experience is very important because it will scale up in a lot of ways.
Fantastic, thank you. And Mariam, we're going to finish with your good self, if that's okay.
Sure. I definitely agree with what Mohamed said around the design process needing a lot of iterations and testing. I advocate that myself too, for sure. In the project that we had where we actually used real-time VR for collaboration, I guess the big lesson that we had to deal with is the trade-off between realism, bandwidth, or the stability of the experience, and cost. And before we started employing VR in the classroom, we actually tested around 15 softwares that offered real-time collaboration in VR remotely, and we went into it with the assumption that realistic avatars and realistic environments are really important. But actually, when we came out of it, what was much more important, so first we learned that the illusion can be kept alive quite realistically and quite well, even with a simple design, and that it was really the trade-off of having a more stable experience where the bandwidth maybe wasn't wasn't suffering so much, that kept the illusion alive. And that once the environment would freeze or something like that, that was when we lost the illusion of being really there. And then of course, once that was understood, then the cost factor came in, but we were able to work with an Untitled VR headset in the course, and every student received their headset, so that was an incredible cost. But it was amusing. I guess my big takeaway from that is, like Mohamed says, that don't commit to a certain hardware upfront, but actually be clear about the kind of tasks that you want to achieve, and choose the VR content or environment based on that, and then subsequently which hardware currently is supporting that.
Fantastic, that's great. Bridget, we've kind of got things back on track in terms of the timeline. Do we have time for a couple of questions, or are you moving on to your next speaker now?
I would request you to move to a different panel discussion. Please allow us, since the time is up. You were right on time. Brilliantly led, Mark. Thank you very much.
Yes,
my pleasure.
Sorry about that there, but Mark, yes, I see one question on emotional factors. Okay, if you guys can take that very quickly. I mean, this is from one of the delegates here. Okay, so here it goes. So this is the question from Mr. Abdul Rahman, which says, would people perform the same in VR simulations in real life scenarios? And how much do emotional factors affect performance, knowing it's fine, to make mistakes in simulation? So this is one of the questions.
I'll do real quick, but I'll hand it over to the VR experts. But it's back to the content part. So I think if the environment and it feels like it's real, that is a good start. If it's not, then I don't think there's any emotional connection with it as well. But again, I'm going to hand it over to the rest, to you three, to maybe discuss a little bit more quickly.
So I think I already spoke about this a little bit. We had a somewhat cartoonish looking environment, and still when you're in it, the illusion of being in a different place and interacting with that place and being there is very realistic. So we respond as humans very realistic in a scenario like this. Even if it doesn't look realistic, we respond realistically. So there's a really a high degree of that illusion that stays alive. And that's already achieved with current hardware and content. Internal engagement, I think what stops us sometimes from engaging emotionally is that we don't believe that it is real. So that's where visual realism can support that. But what's even more is tactile feedback, right? So then a 3 degrees versus a 6 degrees environment, I don't know if those terms are clear, can offer us a lot more tactile feedback and then also engage us more emotionally.
Perfect.
Thanks. All right. Yes. So thanks so much there for that answer, Mariam and Mark. Yep. So over to you, Bridget. Thanks so much, panelists, for answering this.
Well, thank you very much, Mark, Brian, Mohamed, Rashed, and Mariam for the wonderful panel discussion. I'm sure our audience would have captured some great key takeaways from your extremely informative panel discussion. In fact, I do have another question, but I will email you those, I think, or 2 questions that I've received so that you can reply over an email to the respective delegates. Have a nice day ahead, you all, and thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hopefully
Thank you.
in person next year.
Hopefully.
Yeah, sure. Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
perfect.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
See you all.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.